This is the Healthy Business Podcast, the show for ambitious business owners who want to grow and scale in a healthy way. I'm Sarah Cook, and I'll be sharing with you tips, inspiration, and proven methods from leading business experts, entrepreneurs, and health and wellness professionals to help you grow your business with more income and having more impact, but in a way that works for you. Because when you have clarity and strategy, you can achieve the results you want. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Healthy Business Podcast. I am so excited because today I have my wonderful guest, Rachael Howourth, and we're going to be talking all things sales and how you can book more discovery calls, attract your dream client without the hustle and the sleaze, which is just so important. So Rachael, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting me. It's really good to be here.
Oh, I'm excited to see where our conversation goes. I think we're going to have a lot of fun and a lot of interesting conversation, I think, for our listeners. So tell us a little bit more about you and how you got into sales, and then we'll delve into the most important subject around how to do it without sleaze.
Okie dokie. So as you have just said, my name is Rachael Howourth. I'm a sales and business coach. I'm based in the UK, down in the southwest near the seaside, and I have been in sales my whole career. I think, like a lot of people that end up in sales, it was an accident. It was a total accident. I started off as a sales administrator at the age of, I think it was about 20, so a long time ago. And I gradually worked my way up through that company into the role of sales director, where I had an annual target of £100 million. Amazing. I had a team of 60 sales staff. And together we looked after and sold to 13,500 customers. When I reflect back on those years of my life, it does not feel real. You know, like if you said to me now, would you go and like take a job in that company and manage £100 million target? I would just laugh and say, I couldn't do that, but I did, you know, and we hit the number and life was good for a while. And then I had my son and realized I needed to get out of that corporate role because it just wasn't what I wanted anymore. So I needed to get brave and start a business. And so now I help other people to master sales. And the number one thing that they ask me to help with is help me to feel good about it. It's not just about getting the result, it's about feeling good doing it. So I've dedicated my life's work now to helping other women to master sales so that they can build wealth and health and happiness and freedom and choice and all the things that, you know, we want as women, because let's face it, we want all the things, don't we? I love now helping women do that.
Amazing. Oh, there's so many synchronicities, I think, my first role was as a sales rep, going around to kind of pharmacies, selling the wares, having ridiculous targets, but you make it work. You find a way to make it work. But as you say, you then have children and life changes, priorities change, and that's okay. And I love the fact that you just kind of said there that it's okay to want more. In fact, it should be celebrated for people wanting more. And, you know, I love working with ambitious women who want to create whatever the version of more is for them. That kind of leads me into the question that I ask all of my guests. So what I'd love to know is, what does a healthy business mean to you?
Oh, great question. I think for me, the number one thing that would make a healthy business is a healthy business owner. I think, you know, we have to look after ourselves. And whilst I guess the word health makes you think about, you know, body and mind and, you know, vitamins and, you know, self-care and all those things, I think health in business is about so much more. You know, it's about positive thinking, it's about ownership, it's about, you know, feeling good doing the things that you're doing, because if things don't feel good, we won't do them. And so, you know, if we don't do the things that we need to do to grow our businesses and sustain our businesses, then we won't have businesses. So the first and foremost thing we all must do is look after our own health around, you know, mindset, you know, spirituality, not just the physical side of health. So yeah, I think number one would be a healthy business owner. But secondly, you know, I wouldn't be a business coach if I didn't say the health of a business needed to rely on the bottom line. Because whilst, especially in the coaching industry, let's face it, there's a lot of talk about income and how much money is made and income is brought in, and far less discussion around profitability and, you know, what money is left in the bank after all the costs go out, after the team is paid, after all the subscriptions that we probably all sign up to are paid, all the travel, all the expenses, it's the profit that really shows the health of a business. So yeah, for me, it would be those two things.
Amazing. I love that mix. Yeah, it's really important. It totally aligned to what I think as well. And I think you're right. It's that, if you don't have your health of yourself, then, and you're not performing at your best, then your business can't perform at its best because you're not there and you're not showing up in the best way possible. And it's so interesting when I think about the number of people that I see that are sharing their, weekly, monthly income, but actually never show the profit. And you just think, okay, that is the health of a business. Like, you have to have, if you want to have a sustainable business, it all comes down to profit, because you can have all the sales coming in, but if you've got more money going out on that, that's not a healthy business at all. And it's so important to feel good about that, to feel good about every aspect of your business, and really taking that ownership and going, well, what is working, what's not working, and stepping into that CEO role of going, this is the business I want to create. Feeling good was something that you said there, which I love, which I think one of the things that when I ask my clients, my audience, about sales, they would never say that they feel good about it. And I think that's where we want to delve into today, is that there's just this, as soon as you mention the word sales, people go, oh, feel a bit icky, feel a bit awkward. That feels a bit spammy. And that's really why I wanted to bring you in today, because it doesn't have to feel like that, does it? It can feel good. It can feel really genuine and completely aligned to you and the way that you do things.
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. It doesn't have to feel like you're hustling your way to success. It doesn't have to feel like that for you or your client, because obviously if you feel like that and you're behaving that way, imagine how the audience feel and the client might feel. So it needs to feel good and flowy and fun. And, and sales is about helping people. Essentially, it's about helping people. It's not about money. It's not about, I'm going to invite you to do something that you don't really want to do, and I'm going to make you do it through influence and persuasion and any other like guru tactics. It's not about that at all. It's about being open and honest and transparent, asking the right questions, understanding somebody. And when you understand what they want and why they want it, and you are the best fit person or service or program or product to be able to help them, it's just about connecting the dots. The fact that you get paid for that is it should be irrelevant, because that's not the purpose of it. The purpose is not to get money. You're not robbing somebody. It's, it's goods and services get paid for, just the same as buying a pint of milk. You need a pint of milk, you go and buy one, the shop gets your money and you get the milk. It's a fair exchange. It's about helping somebody when they need something, usually a solution to a problem.
Yeah. And I think it's so interesting. I think as soon as you put yourself into that, being that, if you're a sole business owner or a small business owner, you've got a team, that's the bit that I always find people find really hard, because it's like, but it's me. Like, I have no problem going and buying a pint of milk from the supermarket because that's what you do. But when people are buying from you, that's when that kind of internal mindset, that psychology kind of comes up for people, that imposter syndrome comes up for people. And they're like, but I'm not worth it. Why would they come to me? Who am I to want to have money off you? And it's all those kind of questions that I see so many times. And it is reframing it. We were talking before we came live about the psychology of sales, weren't we? Of just, actually, you have to step into that and look at ways that you can feel genuine, but almost remove yourself from it.
Yeah, exactly. Because although it is you delivering the service, what you're selling is not you. You are not for sale. Somebody wanted to buy me. Sorry, the answer is no. I am not for sale. My program, my coaching program, my online course, that's what's being sold. It's the service, just like you, like, they're never buying you. They're buying the service that you have created for them. And that service has been based and built around your expertise and around your knowledge of a particular problem state and your expertise to build the solution state. And of course, they're buying your expertise to get them from A to B, but they're never actually buying you. But you're right, the reframe is vital, because without that reframe and without that real deep understanding of the fact that I am not for sale, I've created something that solves a problem for somebody and I've put a price tag on it, the fact that you've done that should then detach you from the service, the course, the program, whatever that is, you know, in the same way that it would if you were selling a pint of milk. You know, the person that you go to give your pounds to, that, you know, eventually gets you your pint of milk, that person that's taking your pound isn't stood there going, what are they going to think of me for selling milk? And, oh, you know, what if I should have sold them a 4 pint or a 2 pint? Oh, they're not doing that because they trust the fact that you've picked up the size that you wanted, whether that's the 4 pint, the 2 pint. They've trusted that you've chosen the blue top or the red top or the green top. They trust that you know what you want and you're buying what you want. Whereas you're right, when it's about us selling our own services that we deliver, we suddenly get into this turmoil of judgment, of fear, of rejection, and all the other mindset things that come with it. And it holds women back, particularly women, it holds back.
Well, we're so self-critical and analytical, aren't we, that I think that doesn't help when we kind of coming to sales, and that personal situation is linked to it. But as you say, if you can detach yourself from those situations, those conversations, those relationships you're building, and actually you're right, it's finding, you have that conversation, that relationship with someone to find out what is the best thing for them, just as much as they're having a conversation with you to find out what's the best thing for them, to help them with their results. And yeah, I love this kind of, just detach yourself. It is easier said than done. I appreciate that. I've done a lot of work, and I'm sure lots of other people have done lots of work on that kind of mindset thing. And every time you, I don't know, you might be increasing your prices, those little mindset monkeys are always going to come back up again. But reframing that, recognizing that it's a product, it's a service that you are selling to these people, not you, that's gold. Like, if there's one thing that I want you to take away from that, that is absolutely gold. It's so true. When we're talking around this kind of idea of, you know, people feeling the sleaze, people feeling the hustle, but actually if we can detach that, what do you recommend people kind of go into relationships or conversations with? How do they go into that without feeling that sleaze?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I always, when I'm asked that question, offer up the same advice, and that is permission-based sales is the way forward. If you know that you're already susceptible to those feelings of doubt and judgment and all those things, understanding and being able to practice permission-based sales frees you from that. Because instead of you feeling like you're pushing and you're persuading and you're influencing, instead of you feeling like the sale is driven by you and therefore is going to be met with either a yes, no, maybe, or something, you know, not polite. If you feel like you're pushing, then that doesn't feel good. But if you feel like you've got permission because the other person is inviting it, then that starts to feel two-way. And so when I say permission-based sales, I mean introducing like questions into the sales process. And, you know, part of the sales process is just building rapport, building a relationship that might be nothing to do with business at the point where you first get to know somebody, but introducing questions that allow the person that you're speaking with to give you a green light. So it could be, if you're on a sales call, it could be introducing the question of, I'm 100% confident I can help you to achieve X. Are you open to hearing how I will help you to do that? Allowing the person to say, yeah, I'm open to hearing that, because then you feel comfortable and confident to move on. And then what would have been a sales pitch, a one-way conversation, becomes a two-way conversation, because you've asked a question, they've said, yes, I'm totally up for hearing that. And so then you're able to feel good about helping them because they've asked you to. So permission-based sales, you know, we can use a permission-based question early on in our maybe our content strategy. So we can be asking questions in our Instagram stories, in our captions, in our carousels, asking questions to draw in the yes from the audience, so that then when we respond, we know the door is open, not closed, and we're having to kick it down, you know, because if we mentally feel like we're having to kick the door down to be able to sell our services, that's when we feel icky, and that's when we feel sleazy, because we feel like there's somebody on the other side of that door pushing it back shut, going, no, I don't want this. And that's when it starts to feel awkward, and it doesn't have to.
Yeah, I mean, I use the phrase like, if you're pushing, you're going to push, 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 and you're actually going to push them away. Like, you want to flip it and kind of invite people, attract people to you, because that's when that conversation feels so much more natural. And I think as an individual, if someone's saying, how do I work with you? That is that invitation for you to then have that conversation. Whereas if you're pushing your products and services constantly, then it's like, okay, this person is feeling, kind of barraging me with all these different things. So I think it's just flipping. But I think what's interesting is that, especially when I see some of my audience kind of going into that scarcity mode where they are desperate for sales, or they're, wanting to bring that income in, their mind almost flips it and they're like, well, I have to push this product, I have to push this service. And it's like, actually, that's the time you need to go into attracting even more and giving more valuable content without the sales, because that's what's going to bring more people in. But it's hard, isn't it, to kind of flip that, especially if you're in that position where you need a cash injection.
Totally. Yeah, totally. That pressure is not nice for anyone to feel. But there are things that we can do, aren't there? Like, if you do need that quick cash injection, no amount of showing up on social media with a sales post is actually going to help you. You need to backtrack from that a little bit and think more strategically around, where is your audience right now? Are they warm? Are they used to seeing you show up with value, or are they cooling off because they're used to seeing you show up with sales driven posts? Doesn't mean you should never have a sales driven post, but there should absolutely be the right balance.
Yeah.
And I always talk about the customer journey being attract, nurture, convert, when it comes to your content strategy. And so you need to be in your content attracting people in, through problem solving posts, like how to, 5 ways to achieve X, so that your audience can be attracted to you. But you can't then jump to the conversion stage without the nurture in the middle. And that's the bit that people will often either forget or get stuck in. So I don't know about you, but the two most common questions that I'm asked around, like the nurture stage is, how long do I do it for? How do I not get friend zoned? And what happens if I have missed it out? Is that game over forever, or what can I do to get it back? So that is such a critical part in, using attraction marketing to draw in that permission for you to then make a sale.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, just building on that, I think it's interesting when we're talking sales specifically, it's not just that conversion piece. Like, every single piece of content you put out there is effectively a sales post, because it's taking them further along that sales process, that relationship building. And that's really all it is. So I think, again, it's that reframe of, conversation that where are they along that customer journey? And you're always going to get new people coming in, and some people will convert a lot quicker, other people will take a lot longer. I've had people in my audience that have been in my audience for a couple of years, and something's triggered, whatever that trigger is, whether it's a post or something's happened personally or within their business, but that was the point that they're ready to buy. And I think that's okay. Like, I'm more than happy for people to be in my audience. There are some people that come straight in and will buy instantly. And I think it's, different people are in different spaces. So you have to keep showing up at all of those 3 different places of attract, nurture, and convert, because it's just people will tip over it at different times, and it'll be an individual basis for that. One of the things that we were going to talk about as well was how to book more calls. Like, we're in this kind of attract, nurture, convert piece journey. How do we actually convert people into not necessarily just buying, but actually having those conversations, those real conversations with people?
Yeah. I think, very, very often, when we start, we know that we need to have a call scheduler, like something like Calendly or Acuity, or, there's a number of scheduling tools out there. I think Calendly is always, seems to come up as top of the list. So we set up this Calendly, and we don't necessarily optimize it in the best way. So there's so much functionality inside products like Calendly that allow for pre-call questions, that allow for, you to understand more about the person before the call, So the first thing is to just make sure that your call booking process is seamless and friction free, because if they arrive on your Calendly link and it isn't a warm welcome, there isn't a nice introduction, the questions don't feel aligned to where they're at right now, the chances are they're not going to proceed and actually book the call. So the first thing to do is make sure that you can actually facilitate that whole call booking process and automate it, like Calendly. We use Calendly, we have it synced with our Zoom account. So the minute somebody books a call, it drops into their calendar and into ours with a Zoom link, with the time, with a nice reminder, and it's all done in the simplest possible way. So step one is make sure that you can facilitate that whole journey. But then what happens, this is what I find, I don't know what you find, Sarah, but people set up that Calendly and it gives you the little link and they go, right, I'm going to put that in my link in bio and I'm going to drop that into a few places. And then they forget to promote that link and they forget to talk about the fact that their diary is open for people who are ready to talk to them about a service or a course or whatever. They forget to share that. And so, the number one thing to do, if you want to book more calls, my number one bit of advice is just ask, just simply ask people to book. And if you want to take that to the next level, ask them to book and give them a really good reason why they should. So, drop some value, share something, maybe go live, do like a little mini training in your stories or on the live. That could be Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, anywhere that, you're hanging out. But then don't forget at the end to say, if you're ready to make XYZ change and now feels like the perfect time and you think I could be the one to help you, book a call in my diary and tell them where to go and find the link. Because what you'll find is some people won't do it, but some people will. And then you'll start to see that steady trickle of calls come in. There's a few other things that I will always recommend, like optimizing your lead magnets for call bookings, making sure that within your thank you page, within your email sequence, you're inviting calls. If that's what you want, you can have the call booking link in your email footer, so that anybody that you're having an email exchange with, the call booking link is there. You can have it, if you've got a podcast, have it in the description, have your call booking link in as many places as possible. Create a highlight reel on your Instagram all around, a particular topic of interest for your audience, and then have the back page of the highlight reel with the link to book the call. So think about, what is that customer journey? How can you take them on I call it like the 3 steps of a good reel or a good live? It's hook, value, action. How can you make sure that you've got the hook to get them listening, the value to get them thinking, wow, like she knows her stuff, this is really helpful, and then the action, which is what's going to then inspire them to book that call. So it's just about being intentional that calls is a priority for you in your business, and then inviting people to book.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much good stuff in there. And I think, it always comes down to that intention, always comes down to that focus. Like there's no point in just posting something for the sake of it. Like you have to have that plan as to why are you posting that? Like, is it to give pure value? Is it because you want to have that call to action to book something? But I think knowing why you're posting something and getting strategic with that is where the magic happens. We can see, I see so many people that are just posting for the sake of posting on social media and then wondering why social media is not working for them and saying, oh, this is happening, it's ruining my business, I'm not seeing the traction from it. And it's not until we then look at that, is your content actually valuable to your audience? Is it what they're wanting to hear and see? Yeah. Have you got a call to action off the back of it? Like, it's all well and good posting something that's super valuable, but is there a call to action? And I think that call to action doesn't always have to be a sale or a lead into a sale. It can just be to start a conversation. So it could just be something like, if this resonates with you, put a yes below, then you can start the conversation. So it's almost, you're then pulling out those people who are potential people that you could then have that dialogue with, have that conversation with. And I think whilst we're talking sales specifically on here, what we're not saying is that every single post you put out should be a sales post.
Yeah.
Attract, nurture, convert, as well as actually not being afraid to test things when it comes to that convert stage. But optimizing it, I love those ideas of optimizing things. And, I'm probably guilty of this occasionally, of, putting my link in various places and then forgetting to talk to about it, because you just get so used to people knowing where things are. But then you forget that new people are coming into your audience. It's like, okay, you need to keep directing. A confused mind is never going to take action, is it? Or someone who doesn't know what that next step is.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what, when you talk in there, what you said about your content strategy and really like having intent in your content, one of the things that I see people doing, a lot recently, because there is a lot of talk around, is Instagram dying and should I be going to other platforms? There's a lot of like focus at the moment on which channel are you on and what is the right content strategy. The thing that sits above those decisions is your sales strategy. And what I see happen is in the reverse. So the content strategy, people put so much thought into their content strategy, and then the sales strategy is the thing that is the afterthought. So it's like, well, I know what I want to talk about in my content, and the call to action, the sales piece, is just a little bolt on at the end. Well, actually, if you start with your sales strategy in terms of what do I want to sell, who do I want to sell it to, when do I want to sell it, what is the big reason why somebody would even want to buy it, like what is that sales strategy, and then allow that to inform your content strategy, then at least your content is in the right topic area. It's talking about the right things. Like if you are, like I've been selling my sales sprint, which has kicked off this week. If I know that I want to sell that and I need to build that into my content, I can't show up that week and deliver it. I've got to show up in the weeks leading up to it. So your content strategy needs to be informed by your sales strategy, not the other way around, which is what I think I see a lot of people do, content first, sales later. No, it should be the other way around.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's an interesting thought, because I think a lot of people see, well, marketing leads to sales. So that's why I'm going to start with my marketing and then I'll talk about sales. But yeah, as you say, you have to know what you're selling. And above that, you have to know what your goals are. Like you have to know what that is to then ladder up to what your sales pieces are. And it's so interesting. The last kind of couple of months have been talking about, we're the last half of 2022. Like if you want to hit those results by the end of the year, you have to have those goals. You have to know what level of targets are, what you're doing. And then underneath that is what you're selling. Like, how are you actually going to hit those targets? And then underneath that is, well, how are you going to deliver that content? And it's so interesting when people are like, well, I just need a marketing strategy. And I'm like, but what's the marketing strategy for? Like, what are you selling? And that's when the questions come up. And I think it's almost reverse engineering that, isn't it? Kind of start with the goals, then look at what you're selling, then create that marketing that's actually going to help you sell it. And then as part of that marketing is knowing the call to action to get to those sales.
Yeah, 100%. I was on a discovery call with somebody the other day, and I said, so what are you actually selling at the moment? And she started talking about an offer, and I was looking at her Instagram. So I went into the link in the bio, and there was no mention of any of that. So I said, you're not selling that at the moment, because it's not there. If I'm in your audience and you're talking on a live about it, I can't go and buy it. How do people know how to buy it? And she was like, oh, you're so right. Like, I just don't even think that way, that you've got to make things available to people, accessible to people. And that means talking about it and then giving them the information that they need, or giving them an outlet or a place to go to get the information that they need to make a decision, which might be booking a call with you. It might be that they want to scan through a sales page. It might be that they want to read a leaflet, like whatever your ideal client behavior is, you need to build your sales process around that, giving them what they need to help them make the decision. You're not telling them what decision to make, you're just helping them to make it. So it's just fascinating, isn't it, how like you said, marketing leads to sales, but actually sales informs everything, because it has to.
It always has to. And I think like what you were saying there, I want to loop back into this idea of the kind of hustle and sleaze, because that is when people start feeling the hustle and sleaze, like that lady you were talking to on the call. like she'll be probably feeling that she's constantly putting stuff out there, and it's like, but you're not making it available to people. So that's when it feels uncomfortable, that you feel like you're constantly pushing. But it's just optimizing things, I think, of just looking at ways to create that ease for people, because that feels then easier for you too.
Yeah, totally. I think one of the things that we haven't touched on yet, and for me, this definitely plays into that feeling of, does it feel good? Is if you know that your program, your service, whatever it is that you're selling, if you know beyond any doubt whatsoever that that helps people, that it gets results, that the people that have bought that in the past have left you a testimonial, have celebrated with you, have got what they wanted from it, like the return on investment, which, the return on investment often sounds like it's just monetary. It could be an emotional return on investment. It could be a spiritual return on investment. Whatever the measure of return is, have they had that from investing in the thing that you're selling? Because the minute that you know that your, let's call it a program, gets results, surely that feels good then to want to help other people to get those same results. But if you're showing up to sell something, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, what if it doesn't work? What if it doesn't help them? What if it doesn't do what I'm saying it will do? If you're asking yourself those what ifs, that will translate through your energy and it won't feel good.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to teach you, teaching my son to swim or ride a bike, and I don't know how to do it, then I need to either be a really good coach and help him, or I need to be able to show him. But if I'm thinking, well, who am I to teach him to ride a bike? I can't even ride one myself. Then that's going to translate in our energy and we're going to feel it. And if we feel it, our audience will feel it. So I think the number one thing to get rid of the sleaze is know that you can create results. And the best way to know that is to, first of all, if somebody's, just starting in their business journey, sell the thing that that you've been able to achieve results through. Sell the experience that you've got that delivers an outcome, delivers a return on investment, and then it feels good because you are purely and simply helping people with 100% confidence, and those little gremlins are not going to be there to make you feel like, who are you to sell this? This hasn't even worked for you yet. Don't try and sell results that are like way beyond anything that you've ever experienced, because that's not gonna translate.
No, it's so important. I love this, of just that it's the energetics of sales that people miss completely. And we were talking then about the kind of content strategy and sales strategy. But if you're not in it, if you're not 100% not just committed, but if you're not feeling that passion, feeling that excitement about your products and services, that is going to translate into your content and into those conversations that you're having. So yeah, I think almost before you even go out and try and sell anything, is going, am I confident? Am I totally in love with what I am putting out in there? Because if you are, then absolutely you should be selling it. If you're not, then look at how you can make it the most amazing thing, that's going to give the results that people are looking for. And I think even just, I talked about this earlier in the year with my Supercharge Your Sales Challenge, of the first thing is, it is the energetics. Like, you have to step up into that. And so much of this gets missed, that you need to show up as your best self, not just 100% confidence in your products and services, but who are you? Like, how do you create that energy? What is it before you get on those calls, before you're writing content? How do you get into that best version of yourself? Because that's what people get inspired by. That's what people get excited by, that they want to work with you because you are that inspiring person, because you have achieved those results. But if you're really lethargic and you're doing a live going, oh, I need to do a live because I've been told to do a live, it's just not going to fly. You're not going to attract the right people, I think is where we're kind of going with this. Like, if you want those dream clients that are an absolute joy to work with, then you have to show up as your best self, because those people are looking for that.
Absolutely. I mean, how do you do it? Have you got a song? Like, do you dance? Like, how do you do it?
I love this, flipping the questions back to me. Do you know what? I have a boundary in place that I actually don't do any client work before 10:30 every day, unless I've got a client in Australia or Asia that I have to from a time difference perspective. So I use that time post school drop off to do stuff for me. So whether that's exercise, whether that's coffee with a friend, whether that's some self-development, some of my own mindset work, that's how I get really energized at the beginning of the day. So whether I'm then doing client stuff or podcast recordings or, creating content, I know that I'm already in the best possible frame of mind that I can be. If I try and do that at the back end of the day, when my energy is starting to wane, or I've picked the kids up, we've had an argument after school, then I try and do stuff, I'm just totally off. So I think that was a real shift when I got that awareness of like, how can I set myself up in the best possible way, not just for me personally, but to show up in my business, to show up for my clients, to create that amazing content. That was a real game changer when I was like, this is a non-negotiable boundary. But people feel guilty for that. And I think you shouldn't. Like, you are your business owner. We talked about ownership right at the beginning. And I think just looping back into that of just, that works for me, having that boundary, but other people's energy are going to be different throughout the day. But having that awareness and then owning your day, owning your week, owning how you show up, that's when things are going to make a difference. That's when it feels easier. That's when that joy comes back into it. And that is going to translate across in to everything you do. So yeah, that was a long-winded reply for you, wasn't it?
No, it's good. I love hearing how people get into that like mindset and into that energy. Like some people have songs and dancing. I mean, people hate this answer, but I'm just a raging extrovert. I just love people. I can't help myself. Even starting asking new questions. I'm intrigued by people. I'm curious. I want to know everything, and I just love people. And so once I start thinking about, I'm going to go live and I'm going to help my audience today, and that just energizes me, like, because I'm an extrovert. But what I don't want people, your listeners to hear is me saying I'm an extrovert and therefore think that you have to be an extrovert to be good at sales, because you absolutely don't.
No.
And I would go even a step further and say some of the best salespeople that I've ever worked with have been introverts. And there's a really good reason for that. And it's because introverts are good listeners. Introverts are not like extroverts. Us extroverts love the sound of our own voice. We love being the life and soul of the party. We love chatting. We get our energy from people. And you'd think, well, that means that you must be good at sales, but not necessarily, because the fundamental of sales is the ability to ask good questions and to listen. And sometimes an extrovert is rubbish at that. I've been trained to do it. I'm 20 years in to my career of being a good listener. I have been taught for 20 years to be a good listener, rather than to just be in my natural extrovert, state. But an introvert is like that naturally. So an introvert, when they ask a question, it's a bloody good question, because they've listened so hard to what was being said that their question means more. It's got more oomph, more power to it. And therefore the person on the receiving end feels that, that introvert's question is sometimes more insightful and sometimes deeper and gets them thinking. So yeah, I don't want your listeners to think, oh, that Rachel said you've got to be an extrovert, because you absolutely don't. If you are an introvert, lean into your introvert characteristics and know that your ability to listen is one of the things that will make you a really good seller, in any sales situation.
Yeah, and I want to build on that. And it's interesting, when I first started in my sales role straight out of university, and one of the first things that I was taught was active listening, like not just the listening piece, but actually act on that as well. Like, it's all well and good asking great questions, but as a salesperson, and we're all salespeople because we have our own businesses, that you need to act on that. So listening to what their response is, and it might be, okay, well, that program isn't quite right for them, but actually you've got something else that is. But if you're not listening to what they're saying, you can't direct them through into that. And I think, it's really, really interesting to kind of delve into, what your strengths are, like play to your strengths. It's so important. I think we're told from such a young age that we have to improve on our weaknesses. But actually, as a business owner, play to your strengths, like lean into everything that is working for you and dial all of that stuff up. So yeah, I love that it doesn't matter whether you're an extrovert, whether you're an introvert, whether you're a mix of both, which is what I am. I'm an extroverted introvert. And I love working with people, love that energy, but I know that I need that space to re-energize myself away from people. But it's that listening piece. And I think whenever I look at who's doing really well in business and sales, it's that listening. It always comes down to that, because then you know what products and services to create and put out there. You know what people are looking for content wise, and then you can have that, then that becomes aligned to you and then becomes aligned to them as well. And I think it's being real, it's being you. I talk about my 3 R's of being real and relevant and relatable, and I think all those three things, like that's when the magic happens, when you can really get all of those things, like show up as you, like people want to work with you, show up as you, making sure your products and services are relevant. Like there's no point in talking I don't know, Christmas just in February, because people have forgotten Christmas and they're not ready for Christmas coming up again. And I think it's doing it at the right time. Like, what are your audience thinking about right now? But I think you've got to be relatable, and that's where the active listening comes into it as well. Oh my goodness, I feel like I should re-listen to this and scribble loads of notes down myself. It's been amazing. I love chatting to you. I feel like we could carry on all day as well. We'll probably have to do another episode. Are there anything, or is there anything that you feel like we've missed that you want to share some extra gold on, or kind of your top tips for people wanting to grow their sales?
Oh, top tips for growing sales. I mean, there's
It is
so
a bit of a
many
way to
things.
start.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, but I think, the biggest thing is exactly as you just said, listen to your audience. Don't worry about the audience that you don't have right now. Like, I think there's so many people showing up thinking about, got to grow my followers, got to grow my followers. You haven't. Unless you've got an audience of 10, like, don't worry about growing your followers. That'll just happen naturally if you serve the followers that you've got. Yeah, because when you serve the followers that you've got, you're in service mindset, and therefore you're creating stuff that people will want to follow. So don't worry about growing your followers. Put that aside and focus on the audience that you've got and listening to what they want, and then creating things to solve real, genuine problems in the here and the now. Like, we can all sit, and I'm the worst for this. I used to run a training company, so I used to build training courses in my sleep. I could sit and like write a course a day, and I wouldn't get bored. I love it. I absolutely love it. But I don't need to do that. The only things I need to create are the things that help my audience to solve the problems that they've got right now. And if I can show that I'm doing that, just like everybody here listening to this, poll your audience regularly, ask them questions, draw in their feedback, and then use their feedback to create things that help them. Yeah, so inspire them with your knowledge and expertise, but then follow that up with a question. What does that look like for you? What would make that better? What would make it easier or faster? Yeah, what would skyrocket your results? What are you missing right now? Ask them for their feedback and then act on it. And it doesn't have to be that you solve everything with a 12-month mastermind. It could just be that you solve an immediate problem with a 1-hour masterclass, or you solve another of their problems with a 3-week sales sprint, which is something that I've brought to market recently. It's quick, it's fast, it's simple, it's easy. Like, it doesn't have to be that when you create something for sale that it has to be like, bells, whistles, and a cherry on top. It could just be quick, easy, simple, and show your audience that you've done it for them. You've done it with them, for them, and therefore you take them on the journey. So yeah, my I guess my top tip is that, really, like, ask questions, listen, and then make sure that you aren't operating with your own agenda. Yes, you've got income goals. Yes, you want to grow your business. Yes, you want to sign clients, but operate with a shared agenda. Make it that you and your audience have a shared agenda, and then you'll always be in service mindset rather than in sales mindset. Because, if you're in service mindset, it's always going to be a shared agenda. So yeah, that would be my my parting comments for our conversation. But you're right, we could go on for hours.
Yeah, we could. And I think I am going to build on that. So I'm not going to finish quite yet, because I think it's what I want to give people permission is that just because you've had a program that's been running for years doesn't mean that's still the most relevant thing for your audience as well. So be open to evolving, be open to creating something new, because you're growing and your audience is growing. And also the world changes all the time. I mean, we've seen this over the last few years where the world has completely shifted. That means your audience have changed. That means their goals are changing. You've changed. Your experience is different. And that's all okay. Like, just because you see some people launching the same thing year in, year out, doesn't mean that's the right thing for you to be doing. So listening into your audience, leaning into that, I think is almost the number one thing, isn't it? Of just going, actually, I'm here to serve. I want to give that experience. I want to give that expertise to help you. So what do you need? And I think leaning into that and being open to that is really important. Oh my goodness. So many amazing things.
Enjoying it, like that's the key thing. I am a big believer that we're good at what we enjoy and we enjoy what we're good at. And when you find your flow in that and it feels like fun, and you can show up and just like, I think I've even done this. I've done a live on Instagram and said, I don't even know why I'm here. I just felt like I wanted to speak to you, and just have fun and let the conversation move and roll and grow and flow. And just, I don't know, nothing bad ever came from a conversation. Good things come from people having conversation. And if you can just enjoy having conversation, I have no doubt that good things will come from that, So I think just being open and out there, and all the things that we've talked about, really.
Yeah, absolutely. So talking of conversation, where can people find you if they want to start a conversation with you and come and find you?
Everywhere. Absolutely everywhere. So I mean, we're here on your podcast. I've got a podcast. So my podcast is called Building Online Sales Success. So we do an episode a week. So if somebody is a podcast listener, maybe you go on extra long dog walks and you want to listen to Sarah's podcast and mine, then come and listen to the Building Online Sales Success podcast. My favorite social media platform, though, is Instagram. That's where I hang out the most. That's where I've usually got the most DM conversations going on. So come and say hi over on Instagram. My handle is @mysalesmentor. I've just got to 1,000 followers on TikTok too. Amazing. Check me out. So yeah, we're in all the places and spaces: LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Pinterest, you name it. We are having a go at omni-channel presence.
Yes, amazing.
Which I've got to caveat that there by saying I don't do it all myself. I have got the support of an amazing team. So I don't want anyone thinking that they need to be on all those channels, because you don't.
No. Amazing. Oh, Rachel, thank you so much for joining me today. I've loved our conversation. Go and find her. She is awesome. Shares some great content as well. And we'd love your feedback. So do leave us a review, leave some comments. Let me know what your biggest takeaway from this episode has been as well. So leave that on the audio platform that you're listening to this podcast on. And I am Sarah Cook. I will see you on the next episode of the Healthy Business Podcast. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Healthy Business Podcast. To get your free checklist with 1-minute hacks to accelerate your business and find out more about our community, head to my website, sarahcookmarketing.com/healthy business.